just how we solved systems of equations by graphing lines, you can solve systems of inequalities. So this first line, I'm going to graph. So if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it's going to be a solid line. If it's less than or greater than, it's going to be a dashed line. So I'm going to graph y is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 4. So I go to the y-axis, my slope is negative 2, it's going to be a solid line, and I'm going to shade below the line. So it looks something like this. And then x, oh, I need to shade that. So less than, underneath, x is greater than negative 3 is going to be a vertical line. It's a dashed line. And numbers on the x-axis that are greater than negative 3 are going this way. So afterwards, it's kind of messy. You can darken or change color where they overlap. Okay, so for letter B, I'm going to do the first one. My y-intercept is negative 6. My slope is 3. It's going to be a solid line. And it's less than, I'm going to shade underneath. In the second line, I'm going to start at 2. My slope is negative 4. It's going to be a dashed line. And then I'm going to darken where the red and the black overlap. So you could, just like system of equations, you can have word problems with system of inequalities. You have to look for words like no more than, at least, greater than, as little as few as. So here's an example. Another school requires a math score of at least 550 points and a total score of at least 1,100 points. You can score up to 800 points on each part. Write and solve a system of equality to model scores that meets the school requirements. So there's two, we're probably missing some information on here. You have a math score and then an English score. So if I'm using M as math, E is English, I'm going to write some inequalities for this. So you have to score at least 550 points on the math score, the math test. So math has to be greater than or equal to 500. And a total score of at least 1,100. So that means that math plus English has to be at least 1,100. You can score up to 800 points on each part. So up to means less than or equal to. So math has to be less than or equal to 800, and English has to be less than or equal to 800. So I see where I wrote 500 and not 550. Write and solve a system of inequalities to model scores that meet the school's requirements. So on here I'm going to graph. Now we're not really sure which one is, well, I wanted to see my inequalities here. We're not really sure, it doesn't matter where you put the math and the English. So I'm going to set it up, math is on the x-axis, English is on the y-axis. So I'm going to make my scale go up by 100. So this is 100, this is 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, and then the English the same way, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, so I went off right there. So the math has to be at least 550. So 550 would be a solid line like this over here. So math plus English has to be at least 1,100. So, this one maybe I shouldn't have went up by 100, or I shouldn't have went up by 50, because I can solve this by intercepts. So if I cross off the M, E has to be at least 1,100. So that means I'm way up here off the charts. we'll just put it up here, and 1100, 900, 10, or 1000, 1100 right here. So if I solve by intercepts, these are like this, and so that's going to be shaded over here. And then you have that math has to be less than or equal to 800, and then English has to be less than or equal to 800. This is really messy. I'm going to switch colors to show you and keep this. I'm going to keep this black going up here. So we're looking for when the red, the blue, and the black all intersect. So I'm going to show in green. This would be your solution. This is solving the system of inequalities. You're going to have an infinite number of solutions with this inequality. So the solutions would be all of the numbers that are between here. All these ordered pairs are going to work. So you can also solve systems of inequalities that are parabolas, absolute values. So right here I'm going to graph this first line is y is greater than or equal to x, which is a solid line, shade up. And the second one is a absolute value. It's shifted to the left 5 and down 2. So I'm going to go left 5 and down 2. And it's opening up because the number in front of there is positive and the slope is just 1. It's going to be a solid line. Up 1, right 1. And you're shading less than that, so underneath this. So where they overlap is this chunk right here. And then letter B, you're starting at positive 4, down to right 1. It's going to be another solid line. And then it's going to be greater than. And again, this absolute value equation or inequality is shifted right 4. And it's opening up because the number is in front and the slope is 1. So I'm making a V and I'm shading underneath. So you could be a lot more precise as far as, okay, be careful with your slope. This is sloppy. So up 1, right, up 1, left 1, up 1, left 1. Okay, then the last one, write a system of inequalities to describe the shape. So this time you're trying to see what lines could come together to make this shape. So I actually see, I'm going to do two ways. One, I'm going to do all linear equations. And the second one I'm going to show is that actually these could be two absolute values. So I can see, I'm going to do green, see how this is an absolute value, and then this one's an absolute value. So this one right here is an absolute value that is opening up, has a slope of 1, and is just shifted down. So this is y equals the absolute value of x minus 2. And if I put an inequality in there, it's y is greater than or equal to. That is the bottom inequality. The top inequality is y is less than or equal to the absolute value of x, because it's the same slope again, plus 2. So if you graphed this system, you would get this over here. So the second one over here, linear equations, is I'm going to do this line. So this blue line is y is, I'll do the slope. So the slope is up 1, right 1. So it's going to be x, and the y-intercept is 2. It's a solid line, and you're shading above that blue line. So it's y is greater than or equal to. Then I'm going to do in red this line right here. So this is y is greater than or equal to, and then the slope is -1, and you're starting at -2. And then I'm going to do this purple line right here, so it's y is less than or equal to x, and then +2. And then the last one is y is less than or equal to, it's a negative slope, but the y-intercept is 2. So if I graph this system, it's going to be the same as graphing this system. The absolute value is just shorter to me, but this would be okay and this would be okay.